Hey everybody, it is late at night and I am Norman. It is time, once again, for some more watch news. So let us begin. The first article I have on my list comes from Worn & Wound. And this is a write-up of their collaboration with Brew watches, which is an American watch brand. Brew watches have teamed up with Worn & Wound to produce some very unique, very fun watches. One of my favorite watch YouTubers, Caseback Tim, did a great video highlighting these watches. The link to his video is in the description below. Definitely go check it out, and if you're not already a subscriber of his, you definitely want to do that. Caseback Tim is amazing. These watches are what is known as regulator watches. They're inspired by old regulator clocks that watchmakers, etc. would set their watches to. There are actually a few contemporary regulator style watches that are available today. The Zarek Regulator Automatic Silver Bullet, which retails for about $500. The Hamilton Jazzmaster Regular Auto, which retails for $1,275. Even Zinn makes one, the Zinn 6100 Classic B, and those watches go for $3,000. These Brew watches are different. They're chronograph regulators, so there's a primary center chronograph hand that makes the regulator minutes hand, the other primary center hand, look less strange. In most regulators, the minutes hand looks odd to our eyes. Being familiar with both an hours and minutes hands attached to the center post, it's really weird seeing just one hand. In a subdial between the 2 and 3 o'clock position, the hour is called out, with day and night indicated in the center of that subdial. At 6 o'clock is another subdial that displays the seconds, and between the 9 and 10 o'clock is a running chronograph minutes subdial. These watches are available in 3 different fun colorways: sky blue, ruby red, and moss green. And they're limited to just 200 pieces per colorway. Their case size is 36mm, their case height is 10.75mm, the lug-to-lug is 41.5mm, the crystal is sapphire. The movement inside these watches is a Seiko VK68 movement, and they retail for about $549. What do I think of these watches? I absolutely love their aesthetic. I love how they did a different color for that top pusher on each of them, and they're 36mm. That is so perfect. I absolutely love the colorways, the strange hand setup. I mean, stuff like regulators are just fun. Kind of like 24-hour watches or one-handers. They're just kind of fun. I would love to see these watches in person because I bet those colorways look far more impressive in the flesh. Next up, we have a review of a very interesting Oris, brought to us from Monochrome Watches. Oris has come out with an absolutely brilliant and stunning minimalist watch, the Atelier S. These dressy pieces have foregone standard hour indicators and instead call out the minutes and the hours within a minutes track around the edge of the dial. They're available in 2 different colorways, black and green. They feature an amazing looking box crystal that creates fun distortions where the hours and minutes are called out. The case is sleek and elegant looking, and wow, the wrist shots look absolutely gorgeous. Just look at those. Oh. The case size on these watches is 38mm. The crystal is sapphire. The movement inside these watches is an Oris 733, and this is based on a Sellita SW200. And these watches retail for about $2,000. And what do I think of these watches? I absolutely love them. Oh, these watches are just gorgeous. The dials look brilliant. They have kind of a really subtle sunburst to them. I love the handset and just the minimalism and calling out the hours and minutes in a quote minute tracker on the edge looks great. From what I can see in the photos, it looks like the hands and the indices are painted white, which would be so brilliant, but it's really difficult to tell for sure. I've purchased other watches thinking that they had white hands and indicators because that's what it looked like in pictures, only to find out they're chrome and they vanish in the darkness of the dial. But in the pictures, these look pretty white. If I had $2,000 laying around, I would absolutely own one of these. Although the 38mm might be a bit large, given the minimalist all-dial design of the watch. Although the box crystal might mitigate that a little bit. But in my experience, watches like this wear much larger than they are in the spec sheet. So who knows? But they look brilliant. Next up, we have a write-up of a watch brought to us by WMagazine.com. So getting back to what is more typical of an Oris release, we have the Oris Pro 4000 meters. This, as the name implies, is an ultra-deep dive watch. It features a gradient wave pattern dial, and it has an almost Seiko Tuna look to it when viewed straight on. It has batten markers, utilitarian hands, and a date at the 6 o'clock. And the bezel has, as is called out, a rotation safety system that has been tested to 4,000 meters. So this is sort of a locking mechanism that ensures that the bezel doesn't rotate. However, not only can this watch go deeper than any of us will ever go, but it also has a movement within it that offers a 5-day power reserve. Being a deep diver, of course this thing is a beast. It is extremely large, and the case and crystal are extremely thick. However, its case is titanium, so that should help mitigate the weight of this ocean bottom crawling monster. The case size is 49.5mm. The movement inside this watch is the Oris Caliber 400. The crystal is sapphire. And of course, the water resistance is 4,000 meters. That is utter madness. And these watches retail for about $6,200. And tonight we'll be sticking with the theme of deep divers, because Fratello Watches did an article featuring 5 of them. And they kicked their article off with none other than the Oris Pro 4000 meters. The next watch that they discussed is the Omega Seamaster Ultra Deep. And Omega Seamaster Ultra Deep is the name that I'm going to go by, just as Fratello did, because the watch's full name is Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 6,000 meter coaxial master chronometer 45.5mm Ultra Deep. Whoa. This watch, like the Oris Pro, has a titanium case which helps make the heft more manageable. It has a great looking Omega style dial, a wide bezel, fixed lugs, done in what Omega calls manta lugs. And these are very interesting. So these watches would be NATO strap only monsters. Being an ultra deep, even deeper than the Oris, these watches are super thick. From straight on they look great though. Their case size is 45.5mm. The case height is over 18mm. And the water resistance is a whopping 6,000 meters. And the cost is a staggering $13,000. I like the way these watches look from head on. From the side, they're definitely thick. But those lugs are super unique and interesting. And probably a good idea. The idea of these watches being super ultra tool watches, fixed spring bars, probably a good idea. So expensive though. In this article, they also discussed the Rolex Deepsea Challenge. These watches feature 11,000 meters of water resistance. That is just absolutely insane, even more insane than the other 2 watches. They actually don't look terrible when viewed from the side. That is the bane of all ultra deep dive watches, the necessity of thickness. However, this piece is the largest ultra deep we've looked at yet. And by the way, its case is also titanium. The case size is 50 millimeters. The case height is 23 millimeters. The crystal is sapphire and it is 9.5 millimeters thick. Whoa. The movement inside these watches is the caliber 3230, and they retail for $26,000. It's crazy though that these watches almost look like a normal Submariner, even when viewed from an angle. From straight on sideways, you can tell that it's definitely an ultra deep watch. But from head on or a 3/4 view, they kind of just look like a Submariner. So when these ultra deep watches need to be serviced, how much does it cost to check their water resistance afterward? I mean, what does that kind of equipment look like too? That is just craziness. So the last two watches that they discussed in this article have far less crazy water resistance, and their prices are far more human. Speaking of the Tuna, the next watch the article featured was a Seiko Tuna. This particular piece was housed in black with a rose gold bezel, crown, and visible screws. The Tuna is well known and super unique. The titanium case is housed within a ceramic outer case, and while these watches have a case size that's even larger than the previously discussed watches, they have a reputation for wearing really well due to their lack of lugs. The case size on these is 52.4 millimeters. The case height is 17.4 millimeters. The crystal is sapphire. And the movement inside this watch is the 8L35. And what's cool is that movement has a 50-hour power reserve. Their water resistance is 1,000 meters, which is definitely respectable. And they retail for $4,000. The last watch they discussed is a piece that was totally new to me, and it's done by a brand that I hadn't heard of. The Bowen, or Bowen? I think Bowen. The Bowen Stardiver. These watches have a large crown on the left side of the case, which is definitely good given the size of that crown. Although I'm left-handed, so if I owned one of these, that crown would be digging into the back of my hand. This oversized crown is situated at the 8 o'clock position, and it has a helium escape valve at the 10 o'clock. This valve is done very well and fits nicely with the case design, unlike some other escape valves. Omega wart. It even has a pop of orange on it. Perfect. The lugs are super unique, as is the dial. It almost looks like it has an inner bezel, the way the center of the dial is inset. It features super thick hands that are black in color near the center post. The date complication at the 3 o'clock displays 3 dates with the current one called out. I actually kind of like this kind of a date window. It looks unique and kind of seems more coherent with the dial that it's cut into. There's an Arabic numeral for the 6 o'clock and an oversized Arabic for the 9 o'clock. These watches have the most subdued cases we've looked at yet in this article. The case size is only 41 millimeters. The case height is 14.8 millimeters. The lug to lug is 48 millimeters. The movement inside these watches is a Soprod automatic movement, but I never saw the actual caliber called out anywhere. So it's a Soprod something. The water resistance of these watches is 1,000 meters, and they retail for a mere $2,000. So there you have it, some fun and quirky watches, brilliant dress watches, and a ton of ultra deep dive watches. Thanks for watching.